Okay, we're back, and what were we stepping into here?
We're going to be looking at, now that we have a page, how to navigate using that page to somewhere that you actually want to automate. And then maybe some of the things you can do once you're there.
Cool.
We'll be navigating this to the AutoHotkey Pastebin site because I'm the administrator of that site and I don't mind a little bit of automation going on. So the syntax you want to use is that once you have your page, you'll call page.navigate. I'm putting semicolons on the ends of lines. Been writing too much JavaScript. You'll want to navigate to the website that you want to go to. Type to go instead of saying go. So that doesn't seem to have worked. Let's dive back into our class here. Yes. So this is where we get into the Chrome DevTools protocol. We don't want to call the AutoHotkey function navigate. We want to call the DevTools function navigate. So if we go over here to the Chrome DevTools documentation website, which I believe is linked from the Chrome.ahk, yeah, right here on the GitHub. We can go there and search for navigate, and we'll find that there's a method called page.navigate in the Chrome DevTools protocol. And the way you call a Chrome DevTools protocol method is with call. Let's call page.navigate. And then just to make sure I don't mess this up my first try, we'll take a look at one of our examples here. Page.navigate, and then you pass it an object with the options. So you can see here it supports these parameters, options, URL, refer, some more things that may not be applicable to what you're doing. What we just want here is URL. So we'll use our braces to make a new AutoHotkey object with the key URL and the value of the URL to navigate the page to.
Right.
So let's try this again. Bring our Chrome window back up. And now it navigates to that URL that I entered.
With Chrome, do you have to worry about waiting for the page to load after it navigates? You know, waiting to before you interact again?
I don't believe so, but some users have reported some difficulty with that. Yeah, I'm eating my own words now. In my example, I do have a wait for load.
Okay.
So that is a thing that I guess you'll need to call. Yeah, it's been a while since I've dug through this.
Yeah, no worries.
Some of those questions, like you've just had, kind of escape me. So you'll call wait for load if what you're doing needs the page to be loaded to continue.
Yeah.
Some users have reported problems with wait for load, like maybe it waits too long or doesn't wait long enough. A lot of that kind of information and people trying different things has been posted in the forum thread. So if you're doing wait for load and it doesn't act as you expect, it may be worth reading through a couple of those pages to see if someone's posted an answer.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but that's where we would go make a tweak inside your Chrome class, possibly, to tell it to behave a little differently, or?
Some solutions that people post require that.
Yeah.
Others maybe don't. I'm not sure. I haven't looked at it in a while. Let's see. So we can navigate over to our website. It's not, as I said in our last section, sometimes the page you want to grab doesn't have the same title anymore. And so when you rerun your script, it doesn't grab the right page. So let's change that to grab the right site now. And I'm just going to comment out the navigation code because we're not navigating anymore. We're already there. And what I want to do is put some text into this page element. And so I'm going to do that using JavaScript. Now, this isn't a regular input box. It does some fancy code highlighting. And so to put text into it might not be the straightforward standard JavaScript way.
Yeah.
As more websites move to fancier inputs,
right.
You'll find the old ways of doing things don't always work. So let's take a look at our page source here. If your goal with Chrome.AHK was to never have to look at web code, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but you'll find yourself looking at the web code maybe even more than your own code. So let's take a look at what this is doing. It imports a script here called ace.js. And if we look at ace.js on Google, we'll find that this is the high-performance code editor for the web. And it has its own JavaScript API. So when you want to talk to an ACE control, you'll have to talk its language. Or if your site's using some other non-standard control, you would want to go look up how to work with that using JavaScript. Because when you're using Chrome.AHK, really everything you're doing is running through JavaScript. So you're using AutoHotkey to run the JavaScript to change the page. So that's ACE. And over here in this JavaScript file, we can see how my page talks to ACE. And that might give us a little information on how we'll do it. So we'll want to mimic what the page itself is doing.
Sorry, but when you said my page, which page you're talking about?
The paste bin. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
I built the paste bin, so it's mine.
Yeah, no worries. I get it.
So we want to look at what the website itself is doing to access the stuff on it. Not all sites are as simple as this or as easy to find the code for. So your mileage may vary with this particular technique, but we'll see that it creates this JavaScript variable editor, and it calls all of the editor commands on that. And if we go back to ace.js, back to its documentation, we'll see that editor is a section of the documentation. And this shows all the different ways you can communicate with an ACE control. And since we want to set text on it, we can insert text, move text, select all text. Let's use this insert function here. So we'll see in the pastebin code's JavaScript, it calls editor.method name. So we're going to do the same thing in our JavaScript. We'll start prototyping our JavaScript just from the real Chrome development tools, because those give a lot better immediate feedback about what might be going wrong.
Right.
And then once we have a working line of JavaScript, we can put that into our AutoHotkey. If we look for that variable editor, we see that that does exist and is available to access from the console. So if we go and try editor insert, we'll see that Chrome actually suggests to us different options we can do. And we'll want to access insert there. And let's give it some test text. Let's call that example. We hit enter there, and the text appears in our editor. So I'm going to call that working JavaScript and take that back over to my AutoHotkey code and try it from there. Page.evaluate to get that JavaScript running, and run that, and we get an error. This is because both the JavaScript code and the AutoHotkey code both treat the quote character as special.
Mm-hmm.
AutoHotkey, in AutoHotkey, a quote character is the only way to mark something as text, other than a legacy assignment.
Okay.
So what we could do is use this legacy plain text assignment to hold our JavaScript. And then let's run that and see.
Yeah, cool.
Looks to be working well.
Right.
But now we have 2 lines of code when maybe we just want 1 line of code.
Right.
In JavaScript, double quotes can be most of the time substituted with single quotes.
Mm-hmm.
And so that makes it easier to put JavaScript code with strings in it into your AutoHotkey.
Yeah. Just real quickly, the evaluate method or function, help me understand, that's saying evaluate the JavaScript? Is that what that's meaning, or what?
Right. When you do that .evaluate function, it accesses the same API that happens when you hit enter in the DevTools console.
Okay.
It runs that through the same interface. Here, evaluate is short for take this JavaScript, run it on the page, and return the result.
Okay, thank you.
So here we've got it working. It's putting text on the page. But maybe your JavaScript has a quote character in it that you actually want to be a quote character.
Yeah, yeah.
And for that, AutoHotkey requires you to double up the quote. And what this tells AutoHotkey is keep this as part of the quoted text. And then AutoHotkey will automatically reduce this from 2 quotes to 1 quote. So let's run that. And now we get a single quote there. But maybe the page you're using is even simpler. Maybe you're accessing maybe a legacy system that your employer has running. I know at former places I've worked, they have a lot of like network appliances where their pages are really simple. They'll just have a standard input control that you can access using standard JavaScript. And so another site I administrate is mytextarea.net. And if we look at the code for that, it's literally just a text box. So let's try navigating over to that page and putting text in that text box. So we'll go back to our page.navigate and go to mytextarea.net. And then our JavaScript is going to be a little different because every page really is just unique. So before we get back to the AutoHotkey to try to run some JavaScript, we'll need to write some JavaScript. Let's see. When you're writing JavaScript to a page that you don't know much about, one of the biggest problems you're going to have is, how do I get it to act on just this part of the page, just this element, just this box? And so when you're in the dev tools, there's this, by right-clicking on the element you want, there's this section called copy, where you can copy selector or JS path. Those are both helpful tools for targeting an element in your JavaScript code. So if we copy JS path here, this returns a bit of JavaScript code that can be used to access that text area element. So we'll start with that. And then we want to set its value to something. If you've worked with HTML forms before, you'll be familiar with .value. And that's the way you would normally access a what's been inputted into a form through JavaScript. So even in automations like we're doing here, you access that same .value.
Is the JavaScript path that we're looking at right here with the body greater than text area, which looks a lot like the isn't that like similar to CSS in the structure for the query selector all, or is it identical? I don't recall.
So this is using query selector, which is like query selector all, but instead of returning all matches, it returns the first match.
First one, yeah. But I'm just saying though, my real question was getting to, is the JavaScript where you're connecting it with that JavaScript path, is that still leveraging the DOM, or is that a whole different like backbone, not a back map, for lack of a better term?
Honestly, I'm not sure how Chrome calculates this JS path. I know it'll return some code that can be used to target just that element.
Yeah.
In this case, Chrome decided query selector was the best way to do that, but Chrome might not always decide that.
Okay, interesting.
I haven't toyed around with it too much, mostly because I do more back-end automation than front-end web automation. But what I can tell you is that as long as you copy JS path, you'll probably get something useful.
Ian, and I'm as a side note, are you aware of? I've had this question asked a few times. Of other than using like your inspection tool here inside the Chrome, is there any sort of like a IWB2 learner tool that you can drag onto the Chrome window and have it just nice right there?
I'm not aware of tools like that, but I also haven't sought them out. They may exist.
Okay, I was just curious. Okay, let's pause here again, and we'll start up on our next little. Is this a good spot to stop? Or do you want to finish?
Let me talk for just one more minute.
You got it.
Here we've accessed .value, and we can see that text that I've typed here. But we can also set a new value, and the page will update immediately. So we can take that JavaScript code, put that into our AutoHotkey, replace double quotes with single quotes to make it happy, change the title because our title's changed again. I know I've typed a URL here, but that's just because the URL is the page title. And we'll get AutoHotkey to set that form value. And it works. I think that's a good place to drop it.